Welcome to Fort Lauderdale and welcome on board Qing, a 150-foot Cheoy Lee Explorer yacht that I have been so looking forward to showing to you, but unfortunately every time I was able to film her I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and this morning a window of opportunity has opened up where we can be on board while she's re-provisioning ready for her next cruise. Unfortunately there's some building work going on next door, but I didn't want to let that put us off because the information that I can give to you is so interesting. It will far outweigh the surroundings that we're in for the next couple of hours. Let me show you inside. A lot of the details that I want to give to you are of a technical nature because this yacht really is quite exceptional technically, but so is the interiors quite exceptional. The wood that you can see predominantly in this area is an ebony macassar. The floor is walnut. Now the walnut was very recently completely sanded, revarnished, which makes the whole yacht actually look brand new when you walk in here. But just look at the layout, how unusual this is. We have a breakfast area here to starboard facing that beautiful bar, and I have to say that's a solution I really like because when you come on board the yacht you feel that really your vacation has started, and what better way to start your vacation than with a nice glass of champagne. You can sit in this beautiful seating area here while the crew take your luggage down to the various cabins on board. There's a lovely interior dining area here forward, and at this point I should remind you that the yacht was really built to explore, and she has explored extensively. Whilst usually in hotter climates of course you'll be eating outside of the yacht, when you're in colder climates this is a great area to be able to sit down, enjoy a nice formal dinner surrounded by these beautiful windows where you can enjoy your surroundings. A few little features I wanted to point out to you here is the use of storage space. This unit here, which is actually by the stairwell that leads to the guest staterooms, is used for some beautiful cutlery drawers. This has glassware in it, so of course that's very useful for the crew when they're actually setting the table and serving. We'll be looking at the galley later, but one of the accesses from the galley here is just at that door there, so beautifully laid out, very convenient layout to the yacht. As we move forward, the layout becomes even more exceptional and unusual, but very, very intelligent. We come through this corridor where we have a day head here, a second access to the galley inboard there, but have a look at this where you would usually expect perhaps the master stateroom. We actually have the captain's cabin, and again we're reminded this yacht is built for exploring. The owner has actually been on board for over 2 years at one point in his world exploration, so of course to have a comfortable living area for the captain and the crew is of paramount importance. Then look at this. We've now walked into a library on board the yacht. Now the idea here was this is a great area to be able to sit peacefully and read a book or watch a film on the television while your other guests are just enjoying a nice conversation in the main lounge. You have a little studio area here where you can sit with your laptop, do some work in peace. Beautiful large windows again to be able to appreciate your surroundings, and you may have noticed actually there is no television in the main lounge. This is your television area. This is where you sit and watch Netflix or where the kids can play on computer games. If you're on board for a lengthy period of time, there are going to be occasions that you do want to watch the television and have a little bit of other recreation, without a doubt. Let's take a look now at where your guests will be staying on board. So the guest accommodation is actually down this large and wide stairwell. Positioning the stairwell in the centre means that you can have this nice lobby area with the various staterooms off. This one being the VIP stateroom. And here you can see that they've changed the wood. It's no longer that ebony macassar, which is quite dark and works well on the main deck where you've got the large windows. But here you need a lighter wood to be able to keep it a nice light and breezy area. And it works very, very well indeed. It's beautifully appointed. You have lots of wardrobe space, a very, very good sized bathroom here as well with a really good sized shower. As we walk around to the next cabin, we have another double stateroom. This time they've positioned the bed at 90 degrees to the hull, and that gives an impression of a much bigger space in this cabin. It works very, very well indeed. And again, plenty of wardrobe space, a little work desk here which can also be used as a beauty cabinet with a mirror, as you can see. Then again, of course, you have the ensuite bathroom, again with this gorgeous, sumptuous marble, and again with a very large shower. This is a versatile yacht though, because the next cabin is a twin. I would imagine that whoever the next buyer of this yacht is, they may well picture themselves cruising the oceans with their family. This would make a great cabin for the children. In fact, I think it has been used as a children's cabin. Again, good wardrobe space, an area for them to do their homework in case they thought they'd get away with that while they're on vacation. And again, a very good sized bathroom. But it gets even more interesting to have a look at the fourth cabin down here, which actually I think was originally destined to be a cabin, but is now used as a small gymnasium. Interesting feature here that they've actually heightened this area of the ceiling, because of course when you use gymnasium equipment like this, your head is bobbing up and down, and so you have the extra head space there too. They still have a bed here, they still have its own dedicated bathroom, so if somebody wanted to convert this back to a cabin, it's absolutely easy to do. But another feature I like about this area is it kind of tells a bit of a story about the yacht. They've converted this to a little editing suite. Can you just imagine, as you go into Papua New Guinea or Norway or other exciting places, the amount of footage you must get from drones and from people's cell phones as well, and the photographs. It's great to have a little editing suite there to put it all together to create some really beautiful personal memories for yourself and for your guests too. Let's take a look now though at the owner's stateroom. We could have accessed the owner's stateroom actually from the inside stairwell, but I wanted to take the opportunity to quickly show you the aft deck too, because it's a lovely spacious area. Two separate tables that lift and lower so that you can use them for dining or for coffee tables. They unite together as well to make one single big dining table. Lovely seating area. Rather unusually, instead of putting that all the way back, they've got a little corridor there at the back too. The captain called this a Portuguese aft deck. We had some conversation as to whether that was a technical term or whether we'd just invented a new technical term, but it works very well. And I suspect that probably the owner will access his stateroom as well from these stairs. This is pretty much an owner's deck, almost completely, with this being a private terrace area for the owner when he's on board. Lovely little seating area there, but of course you can do whatever you want with a space like this. But just have a look at the stateroom itself. We're back to that macassar wood again. It works so well when you've got natural sunlight flooding in. Beautiful seating area, lift and lower television, his own desk to be able to get a little bit of work done if he really wants to. And then just look at the actual cabin area. This is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The way it's appointed, the carpet, the woodwork, the joinery, the large wardrobe space that you've got there as well, the light coming in. Beautiful, beautiful bathroom for the master stateroom too, with two sinks, a tub, and of course that gorgeous massive shower there that can become a steam room or a shower depending on what you really want to use it for. And the captain was saying to me that when the owner is on board, the crew know not to come up onto this deck while he's up here, because of course it's his personal space. He could have a shower there, leave the windows with the blinds up and enjoy the surroundings around him while they're at anchor, of course, because again, this yacht has been to so many exciting places, and some of the scenery it must have seen must be really quite incredible. So to get up in the morning, look out at your surroundings, take a shower here, and still drink in the area that you've just visited must be just incredible. Let's take a look at the last guest area before we look at the crew accommodation, and that of course is the sun deck. Now here I could talk about the size of the sun deck, which of course is quite self-evident, with lots of sunbathing areas, that lovely table there, which again divides into two if you wish it to. Probably big enough actually to seat 12 people for a big dinner out here. It must be wonderful. But I want to really show you some of the aspects which are less visible. And this is a good moment to tell you that Qing was built by Cheoy Lee with a steel hull and a composite superstructure, which is really quite unusual but works very, very well. It was built to Lloyd's classification, which is a very high standard of safety and build quality as well. And one of the things that Lloyd's of course look at are the safety elements. So it has to have large life rafts which will float free in the event that there's a real major emergency, which of course is highly unlikely, but Lloyd's job is to make sure that even in those highly unlikely circumstances, the yacht is secure. The problem with life rafts is they are so ugly, they can spoil the line of a yacht. So what Cheoy Lee have very cleverly done is hidden the life rafts underneath these lids. And when I asked the captain about how that works, he explains that there's hydrostatic releases here. One captain once said to me that a life raft is something that you should never have to jump down onto, but rather step up onto. That's how bad the situation should be if you ever have to need these things. So under those extreme circumstances, the hydrostatic releases release the life rafts, they float free, and that's the safest possible circumstance for those emergency situations. Hopefully that will never happen, but it's good to know that that's the kind of build quality that this yacht has. Here you have storage, here, and of course this is repeated on both sides of the superstructure of the yacht. But I rather liked this because some yachts, even of this size, have a barbecue which is hardly even worthy of the name of barbecue. But look at that! That is something you could really do some steaks and sausages and have a great meal with. The captain said to me actually they haven't used it that much because usually their barbecues are on the beach. But if you're at anchor, if there's no beach close by that you can have a barbecue on and you really fancy that kind of food, you've got this alternative here. More storage here. And finally, this is a hatch that leads to the bridge. So let's take a look at the crew areas on board. We'll start with the crew area right here at the bow. This is what's called a Portuguese bridge because you can walk in front of the bridge and get direct access to the bow, where there's that glorious 2.5-ton crane lying in between a 24-foot main tender and a secondary tender that's sometimes called the MOB boat or the rescue boat, but it's used for all kinds of things. For example, garbage runs that the crew have to do. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, but it's worth noting that this is such a high bow, giving great depth beneath those tenders, and that depth is used very wisely with storage for jet skis and kayaks and fenders and spare parts. You can just imagine that on a real explorer yacht such as Qing is, you can never have too much storage space, and this yacht has oceans and oceans of space for all kinds of objects for you to take with you as you're exploring the world from this bridge. And the bridge is the area that for me turned the yacht from being exceptional to extraordinary. Worth mentioning that on many yachts of this size, of course, the captain's cabin would be just behind the bridge there. On this yacht, of course, it's on the main deck, which is really good for the space and the livability of the captain. But let's take a look at some of these elements here, because one of the things which is really extraordinary about the yacht is that she has one engine, one propeller, and that propeller is variable pitch. Now the variable pitch propeller is controlled from here, and the captain was explaining to me that at 1300 revs is really the sweet spot for running the yacht. You get great range there. You'll get about 5,500 nautical miles at 1300 revs. So the yacht will be doing about 10 and a half knots depending on the sea state, and again depending on the sea state is how you will set the variable pitch propellers. Usually when a yacht goes into reverse, the direction of the propeller reverses. On this yacht, the propeller always goes in the same direction, but the pitch can change here to allow you to reverse the yacht. That's quite unusual. But don't think that this is a single-engined yacht with just one propeller. It's not. It actually has two engines and two engine rooms. The second engine room at the bow has a much smaller engine. We'll be looking at it in a little bit, but the control is here. You have a booster jet drive in the second engine room that's controlled with this control here. Now that's not just in case your main engine fails, that's highly unlikely to happen anyway, but this is also fantastic for maneuverability, because generally speaking a single propeller yacht is very difficult to berth. It's just not quite as agile and maneuverable as a twin engined yacht. But with this, with the stern thruster and with the booster that actually rotates through 360 degrees, the captain was saying this is such an easy yacht to get into its position in a port. So two engines, one smaller one with the jet drive forward and the main engine with propellers. We'll be looking a little bit later at the engine room, but first let's take a look at the rest of the crew areas, starting with the galley. Actually, there are several different ways of getting to the galley. Some yachts are built where the crew have to be separated from the owner at all costs, and it can make a yacht quite compartmentalized. I prefer this open layout, especially for somebody who actually wants to charter the yacht. The galley is through here. Really good size actually. This is a Korean worktop, that's stone over there. You've got all of the equipment you could possibly want for a very large, for a very long cruise. The captain was saying you can quite easily stay on board for 2 weeks. Lots of freezer space, lots of refrigeration space. This is a dumbwaiter here. One viewer recently asked me about waste management on a yacht, and what a very good question, because when you consider that a yacht the size of this has potential for 9 guests, 11 crew, that's 20 people who may potentially be at sea for 2 weeks. A tremendous amount of waste can be generated. In the case of Qing, they not just only have a trash compactor, but they also have a strict discipline on cleaning things up. So for example, an empty yogurt pot or an empty can can be washed through, then compacted, then taken out of the compactor, and they actually have a waste storage cabinet on the upper deck. Then the second of those 2 tenders that you saw on the bow, the one that we call sometimes a rescue boat, could be used to take the waste off, back onto shore where it can be properly disposed of. Larger yachts sometimes also have freezing facilities for the waste. In case of Qing, that's the way that they handle the waste, basically by a well-trained crew. And talking of the crew, let's take a look at the crew quarters. So the crew accommodation is very well designed, because as you can see here you have a laundry room and space for ironing. Behind me you have a door that leads to the guest accommodation, so how convenient is that for the stewardess to be able to go through, change the sheets, bring them in here, wash them, get everything ironed without disturbing anybody having their breakfast on the main deck. Nice sized crew mess, plenty of space here for the crew to be able to relax. You've got a single cabin just there, a double cabin here, and forward 2 triple cabins. We can actually take a look at one of these to give you an idea of the space there, and of course they have their own ensuite heads as well. An engine room with one engine, this big Caterpillar 3512 unit, and just having one engine gives space for so much other things in here. Actually, the yacht has 3 90 kilowatt generators as well. And one of the things that's really come through to me on this tour of the yacht is how many redundancy systems there are. Now, on most yachts, the engine has what's called a PTO attached to it. A PTO is a power takeoff, and that runs the hydraulics for things such as the stern thruster, the stabilizers, and other hydraulic machinery on board. And actually, this is a good time to mention that on board Qing, it has stabilizers built by Naiad that are also 0 speed. So they're fin stabilizers, but they also work at anchor. Now the PTO, the power takeoff units that run those hydraulic systems, as well as being attached to the engines, on Qing are also attached to the generators. So it's redundancy after redundancy after redundancy. And in keeping with that big yacht feel, if we just walk aft here, past this rather nicely appointed tool cabinet here, there's a dedicated engineer's office from where the engineer can sit, see what's happening with the engines, little workbench here as well. These are essential elements for a serious explorer yacht. On the subject of the engineer, let's take a look in the lazarette. Actually, in the lazarette, the engineer's cabin is through this door here. But look what a lazarette this is. It's just built for diving. You have the dive compressor here, bottles here, which are then used to fill up the actual dive bottles that go on the diver's back. You've got all of the equipment here as well, lots of space. The captain made a really cool comment to me. He said actually that when you're exploring the oceans, the magic really happens beneath the waterline, and it's almost a shame to be able to go all over the world and not enjoy the scuba diving experience. But this is not the only engine room on board Qing. Let's finish by having a look at the second engine room at the bow. As you can see, this second engine is right in the bow of the yacht, and it's quite incredible. We have a smaller Caterpillar engine here, which spins a shaft, which is underneath here, that powers the impeller that creates a jet that rotates through 360 degrees. And as I mentioned earlier, that's just fantastic for the maneuverability of the yacht, but also can be used for a propulsion system. If necessary, you'd reach about 5 knots and you can go quite some considerable distance just using this on its own. We have another smaller generator here. It's just a great area for an absolutely remarkable yacht that doesn't just have potential to cruise the world's oceans, but has been successfully cruising the world's oceans for many, many years and creating many happy memories for the owner. Now it's time for a new owner to find this yacht and to enjoy her. So she's for sale with 2 of my dear colleagues, Kevin Merrigan, who is one of the most experienced yacht brokers on the planet, and Philip Bell, who has actually worked as crew himself, so brings a fantastic new perspective to the sale of any yacht. Between the 2 of them, they can get you any information you need to make an intelligent decision on the purchase of this yacht. They can arrange for a viewing for qualified clients. They are absolutely the right people to speak to, and that's why it's their contact details that are on screen now.